Welcome back. This is Bottomline Africa. Now let's continue with that conversation. Today is International Women's Day and we're challenging the issue of reproductive health. My guest, Esther Kimani, who is an executive director of Zamara Foundation, joining us from our City Center studio. We also have Nailante Kileku, a global nurse, Year of the Nurse Midwife 2020, also a reproductive health network, the Kenya Vice Chair, Kisumu Cluster. And also we have Kefin Atieno Ojunga, who is a nurse or provider at the Reproductive Health Network Kenya. Thank you very much, ladies, for making time and continuing to stay with us here on Bottomline Africa. Now, I'll start with you, Nailante. I'm aware you're at the event at the International Women's Day in Kisumu. Kindly just briefly tell us what exactly is happening. What is the conversation there?
International Day, which has been graced by our very own Madam Boss and the County First Lady, Madam Dorothy Nyong'o. So the emphasis today is talking to the young people or the adolescent on the need to be able to talk about issues affecting them openly, able to discuss them with the teachers and being able to discuss them with parents. So the emphasis today actually is about the parents. They should be able to take responsibility when it comes to matter of sexual reproductive health.
All right. Thank you very much, Nailante. Now, allow me to welcome Kefin, who is joining us. She is new in this conversation. Thank you very much. Now, we were talking about family planning, and as Nailante just mentioned, that women need to teach their children more about this. Do you think so? Where should we start? All right, we seem to be having an issue.
Actually, for family planning,
okay.
What the people don't understand is that it's not about just having one or two babies. The whole issue about family planning is about the right timing, the right number, the right spacing. And so we need to package, to be able to package this information in a way that it can be understood. Are you there?
Before we went for the break, of course, we were talking about the fact that there is low intake of contraceptives, but I did mention the issue of morning after pills that are sort of being abused by young ladies and women in general. If I'm not wrong, it should be taken around 3 times in a year, but people seem to take it more than that.
One thing that you should be able to know is that the pill that young people are fond of taking, or even married couple, that the level of hormone in one in a nipple is a bit too high compared to a normal contraceptive like combined oral contraceptive. And therefore, we advocate that if you know that you are sexually active and you are not on a method, we advocate that you should be able to take a long-term method so that you avoid, or, it's time saving. You avoid rushing or making it like an emergency, week in, week out. Can you be on a long-term method of family planning?
All right, Esther. Esther, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
I think why then women and girls, and especially young women and girls, really fall into the prey of emergency contraceptives because there's not really a sexuality education for them to actually know that as a young person, I can actually access everyday contraceptives that then, provided I'm sexually active, I can actually access contraceptives. And because of that, and the only thing that they know how to prevent pregnancies is that then they tend to actually use the emergency contraceptives. So if there is, a lot of awareness creation, if we are able to actually even remove the stigma around young people and young women actually accessing contraceptives, even adolescent girls accessing contraceptives, then, we'll find that young people will stop abusing every day. They'll stop abusing morning after pill. but they abuse it because that's the only thing they know, that they will not be questioned when they go to a chemist and ask, I want e-pill. No one will ask them because a chemist will definitely give. But you find that, you know, even taking contraceptives, they have to go to the hospital and go and speak to a nurse or go and speak to a gynecologist and taken through all the different types and what works for them. So that already, you know, it's a long process. Secondly, we have not actually, you know, ensured that then girls and boys know, I mean, girls know that if they go to the hospital, there is youth-friendly services where they can actually speak to a health provider who will not judge them first, who will make them feel safe, and that then they can actually choose a method that makes sense for them because they're already sexually active.
All right,
so
Esther.
The more we do not have, yes.
Kindly just finish your point before I interject.
No, I just wanted to say as long as we don't have youth-friendly services in our public facilities, and that people know, even in the facilities that we have, young people know there are those services, then of course young people will definitely shy away from going to the hospital to get contraceptives.
All right, Esther, now there was a time that most people say that this burden of contraception and, you know, family planning has been mostly on the women. And I remember a couple of years back, there was an introduction of, well, there were talks of introducing a male contraceptive. Before we move on, just kindly your thoughts about the introduction of contraceptives to men, before we continue, briefly.
Yeah, so that happened, that there was an introduction of contraceptives to men, and one of the things that for me I also read online was the fact that, you know, men said no because of the side effects, but it's the same side effects that women are getting all the time. So unless we are able to put the burden of contraceptives to both men and women, we're not going to go forward. And also to remove the stigma around vasectomy, because then if you do not want to have many other children, actually we should get men to have vasectomy so that then they do not continue impregnating people. So I think the fact that it was introduced and withdrawn because of side effects is not the right way to go. We need to reintroduce it so that then the burden cannot squarely fall on women, and that men can also take responsibility when it comes to family planning, safe sex, and contraceptives in general. Thank you.
All right. Coming to you, Nailante, I hope you're still with me. You work in a health facility. How often do you see youth or even young girls and their parents come and get advised about this issue of family planning and contraceptives in general?
Thank you so much. And that's actually where the problem lies. Because what is being said is that we need to take consent from parents when we want to engage these young people in matters to do with sexuality and, for example, taking contraceptive. But I want to ask you, how many children will go to their parents and tell them, Mom, I'm ready to start sex, I want to go and have a contraceptive? How many will come? So it becomes quite a challenge. And most of the time you find us, we are talking about having youth-friendly sites or youth-friendly services within.
All right, we seem to be having a challenge with the network there with Nailante, but allow me to bring in Esther again. Esther, as she has mentioned, the problem seems to be consent. So then, where are we going wrong? Is it the parents, is it our healthcare system, or is it society in general?
Okay, so I want to respond in three-pronged. One of the things that I want to say is that the Ministry of Health has the adolescent care package of 2014. And that care package guideline says that if an adolescent presents themselves to a health facility and actually seeks contraceptives, you should actually, you as a healthcare provider, they should not be denied any of those services. So we have already a guidelines that speaks to about adolescents' healthcare in terms of accessing to contraceptives. But then the challenge comes. We live in a society, so this is the other side, where we live in a society where parents and community at large are still, burying their heads in the sand, saying, girls and boys are not having sex. So because of that, and the fact that we are socialized with our religion background, we feel like, oh, we need to actually ensure that there's parental consent. No parent would want to just imagine her 13-year-old, 15-year-old already is having sex. So definitely there's a lot of pushback from the parents and from the community at large. And I can also say in terms of also religious and Christianity and even in Islam. So there's also a lot of pushback from Christianity and religion in a way that then it hinders for young people who are already, having sex to even acknowledge they're having sex. So you find that then as the healthcare provider, as much as we have the guidelines, there's still, of course, something called conscientious objection where they don't want to provide that service. They're like, oh, where is the mother of this child? But they are permitted by a law that, they're permitted by a guideline where they should provide the service. Then we have, of course, the community and the parents that feel like, oh, actually, my child is not already having sex, but they are having sex. And then, of course, we are all, we are all a society that has this religion that really is still works, the teachings of religion still are taking us back because they are forgetting that we live in a world where, of course, there's a lot of unsafe abortion. We live in a world where girls and boys are having sex. So we should actually, the conversation we should be having is to protect these girls, because if they don't access contraceptives and they get pregnant, and they don't know where to get safe and legal abortion, they will actually start having abortions. And when that happens, is that we'll continue losing women every single day because of unsafe abortion.
Oh, okay.
So of course, the challenges are three-pronged.
Okay, Esther, we're out of time. Briefly, I just want us to know, so then, how exactly do we solve this, considering it's not just family planning, even access to maternal health is a problem. How exactly do we close the gaps that are in reproductive health, briefly, in 1 minute?
So I think I can say is in terms of ensuring that the accesses to services are realized. So for example, the introduction of Nena to Binti or anti-gen hotline, an hotline where girls and young women can actually get connected to health providers. And of course, the implementation of youth-friendly guidelines where we can have youth-friendly nurses and doctors in hospital where girls can actually go. And of course, more sensitization around, of course, the laws and policies that we have that guides that. And maybe last but not least, I can say is the fact that we should actually just all of us wake up and just know that girls and boys are having sex and we need to protect them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Esther Kimani. Of course, this conversation is a conversation for another day. We'll be having an in-depth conversation on that. Esther Kimani, Executive Director, Zamara Foundation, joining us from our City Center studio. Also, we had Nailante Kileku, who is a global nurse, and also a Reproductive Health Network Kenya Vice Chair, Kisumu Cluster, and Kefin Atieno, a Reproductive Health Network Kenya. Of course, the two were not very present in the conversation due to network challenges. But finally, a team of archaeologists have assembled a recreation showing the splendors of the Mayan Red Queen, who reigned